2017 meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Welcome to everyone joining us in council chambers, as well as those watching or listening through Oshkosh Media. We're pleased to have citizens participate in the local government, so welcome to all. The city clerk, please take the roll.
Piansky.
Here.
Krause.
Here.
Peck.
Here.
Palmieri.
Here.
Allison Osby.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Present 7.
Councilperson Pansky will lead us in the invocation. Would you all please stand, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
We ask for guidance tonight as we begin this meeting. May all those who participate in our discussions and our decisions reflect the values that we cherish in this great city.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to ask our student to step forward, the young man who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And your classmate didn't show up, so you did a good job by yourself. If you want to stand and kind of face that direction, ask your name, your age, where you go to school, and your favorite subject.
I'm Caleb Pollock. I'm 14. I go to Trinity Lutheran School. My favorite subject is math.
Okay, thank you. We have a certificate for you for leading us in the pledge. And you're free to go home or stay and watch the meeting. And I don't see him even sitting down. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a proclamation. Proclamation, whereas the Continental Congress first declared a National Day of Prayer in 1775, making National Days of Prayer a long-standing American tradition, and whereas the National Day of Prayer became law in 1952 when unanimously passed by Congress and signed by President Harry S. Truman, and whereas May 4, 2017 marks the 66th Annual National Day of Prayer, and whereas the theme for 2017 is for your great name's sake, emphasizing the need for all of us to place our faith in God, who is sovereign over governments, authorities, and men. And whereas millions of people from coast to coast will create a huge wave of prayer illustrating the unity of God's people over the circumstances facing us during this critical time of our nation. And now, therefore, I, Steve Cummings, Mayor of the City of Oshkosh, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 4, 2017, as a day of prayer in the City of Oshkosh. And I encourage our fellow citizens to join in prayer, seeking God's grace and asking Him to touch the minds and hearts of our people and our leaders, that we may meet the challenges that lie before us with courage, wisdom, and justice. Is there anyone in the audience who will be accepting the proclamation? Would you like to say a few words? Just a couple.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. The United States is a very special place that we live in. There are very many countries in the world where if you stand on a corner and pray in public, let alone with a gathering of people, you'd be put in prison. We have that as a right, as a freedom, and each year we exercise that freedom. For many years we've been doing that here, May 4th, which is the first Thursday of May this year. And we gather around the flagpole in front of City Hall right here. And between 12 o'clock and 12:45, we have a time of prayer for anyone that would be interested in coming. We certainly invite you, and it's open to all faiths. Anyone that believes that there is a God and that He answers prayer, you're more than welcome. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the first of citizen statements to council. Citizens are to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes, must address items that are not listed in the council meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh, and the Common Council may address at future meetings and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council? I see no one coming forward, so we'll move to consent agenda items. And these are items of a routine administrative nature that are voted on by the council in a single roll call vote. Staff recommends approval of all items. Any member of the public or common council may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. One is report of bills by finance director. 2, receipt and filing of library board minutes from February 25, 2017. 3, receipt and filing of museum board minutes from March 2, 2017. 4, receipt and filing of common council minutes from March 14, 2017. Resolution 17-201, approve One Oshkosh, our Neighborhoods Engage strategic plan. Resolution 17-202, approve and submit Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources 2016 Stormwater Program Annual Report. Resolution 17-203, approve resolution to declare end of emergency for purchase of repair parts and repair of biosolids dewatering centrifuge. Resolution 17-204, approve initial resolution for special assessments contract number 17-22 Sawdust District Improvements Phase 1. Resolution 17-205, award bid for Public Works contract number 17-11 to Wood Sewer and Excavating, Inc. for sanitary manhole rehabilitation infiltration reduction program, $595,252.80. Resolution 17-206, award bid to Michaels Materials MMC Inc. and Northeast Asphalt Inc. for road materials for various departments. Resolution 17-207, award bid to Reinders Inc. for leaf picker for Parks Department, $17,430. Resolution 17-208, award bid to Reinders Inc. for 16-foot riding tractor mower for Parks Department, $82,240.24. Resolution 17-204, award bid to Office Technology Group for video conferencing equipment for the Fire Department, $71,370.64. Resolution 17-210, approve change order number 1 with FabTech Wastewater Solutions, LLC for primary clarifiers repair and rehabilitation project, $45,767.50. Resolution 17-211, approve purchase from TAPCO for pedestrian crossing equipment for electric division, $30,965.60. The following resolutions, 17-212 through 17-220, are all special events will occur this year, so I won't keep repeating special event. I'll only keep repeating the year 2012. Resolution 17-212, UW Oshkosh Women's Center to utilize city streets for the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, May 3rd. Resolution 17-213, Kelly's Imprins Corey Gay, close parens, 219 Wisconsin Street to hold their graduation beer garden, May 12 and 13. Resolution 17-214, Oshkosh Garden Club to utilize the front grounds of the Oshkosh Public Museum for the Oshkosh Garden Club plant sale, May 20. Resolution 17-215, Hmong Service Center, Inc. to hold the Hmong National Memorial Day Festival at the Winnebago County Community Park, May 27 and 28. Resolution 17-216, John Sack check to utilize Opera House Square for the Frankie Joe Inspiration Celebration Series, June 3 through October 28, which are Saturdays. Resolution 17-217, Waterfest, Inc. to utilize the Leach Amphitheater for the Waterfest Concert Series, June 5 through August 31, in Thursday evenings, and Wednesday, July 21.
July 12th?
Pardon?
July 12th.
July 12th. Thank you. Resolution 17-218, Camp High Wheeler Youth Fund of the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation to hold the Camp High Wheelers 80th anniversary event at the Payne Prairie Woodlands, June 24. Resolution 17-219, Oshkosh Corporation to hold their 100th anniversary concert at the Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA grounds, July 14. Resolution 17-220, Shanna's Forget to utilize South Park and city streets for the Jasmine Marie Memorial 5K Run Walk, August 12. Final resolution is 17-221, approved combination Class B license, Class A fermented malt license, and special Class B licenses. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to any of these items on the consent agenda? I see no one coming forward. I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I just had a question on one of the resolutions. On 17-204, it's the special assessment for the Sudist. It says in there that residents could be assessed special fees, part of the cost of beautification for the area. I mean, were they told about this already, or is it something that, how much are they gonna be assessed? I mean,
This initial resolution is just giving my staff the authority to start preparing estimates to be able to get that information out to the adjacent property owners. Once those estimates are later prepared, they'll get sent down to the clerk's office for mailing out along with notice of the future public hearing.
so is it giving you guys the authority to charge special assessments, or just to look into it?
It's giving us the authority to prepare the estimates. The public hearing will be the time at which the council would actually approve any special assessments.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Palmieri?
Yes, regarding 17201, the One Oshkosh strategic plan. Mr. Davis, Ms. Williams. So 2 questions. One is, by the way, congratulations, wonderful documentation. Love the infographics, love the detail. Just some follow-up is, I'm not seeing in the strategic plan where we're doing an actual baseline market analysis in which we can measure under the performance measures after the improvements and after the participation. Do we have that firmly established that we're going to do a baseline market analysis?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're doing that baseline analysis this summer.
Okay.
It's a kind of a follow combination, 2 things. One is a follow-up from when NeighborWorks did theirs about 4 or 5 years ago, and now we're going to expand that to include the questions we want for One Oshkosh. So we'll be able to do double duty with how we've done in the last 5 years and how the image could be projected or compared in the future.
Now, I'm not talking about the citizen satisfaction survey. I'm
No,
talking about
neither am I.
market
It's a
okay,
different- it's a
property
different
values
animal.
and, okay.
Yes.
All right, and let's see here. That would be taking place in each of the geographical neighborhoods that are identified, or only?
It's a scientific random sample. I can turn that over to you.
Okay, sure.
So the way that that will work is the survey will be conducted from a statistically valid standpoint. So it will be a random sampling of the target area, which does include the vast majority of the recognized neighborhood associations in
Okay.
Oshkosh.
Okay, excellent, wonderful. And then just one other question I wanted to clarify, I'm sorry, 2. It looks like under some of the neighborhood management there's a discussion point on performance measures that speaks to requiring attendance at 11 annual Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhood Alliance meetings. Is that on the part of staff, or is it out on the part of the neighbors?
I can answer. That was an expectation of staff to participate
Okay.
actively in those sessions.
All right, and then there was just one other acronym that was in there, CDU, that refers to block condition. It was a performance measure. Could you just tell me what that is, or
Sure.
tell folks out
Sure.
in the audience?
It's an evaluation tool that is used by the assessor's office to measure the condition, desirability, and utility of existing structures in Oshkosh. It's a uniform way of evaluating a property's condition, and it also affects the property assessment.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great attention to detail on this, vastly improved from when we first started out working on neighborhood improvement and revitalization. At least we actually have some data that will be measuring those efforts, so thank you.
Just one follow-up question that either Elizabeth or Alan. On that performance standards, you got image, market, physical conditions, neighborhood management. Who's going to receive that information? Is that going to go back to the neighbors, to the council? Who's all going to receive that information when it gets tabulated and completed?
So in terms of reporting, we are anticipating doing an annual report, which will evaluate the various the KPIs or key performance indicators that have been identified. And in addition to that, we have developed a dashboard which will allow us to input the data, so to speak, over time and kind of track our progress from year to year.
So that will be available for all citizens to see on the website and everything else?
Correct, yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mayor, I'd like to pull resolution 17-217 for further consideration. We go forward with the consent agenda minus that one. Does anybody
Okay,
pull an
There's
item?
no further questions from council. We can vote now on the consent agenda minus resolution 17-217.
Pansky,
Aye.
Rousey,
Aye.
Heck,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 7.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Okay, thank you. Reference resolution 17-217. I'd like to make an amendment to the resolution. First off, there was some confusion, and I think Kathy, is she here? There she is. Ms. Schnell. Thank you. Originally, when the resolution came out, there was some confusion in section A and B of the resolution that actually the event was going to end before the beer sales was going to end. So we-
Right, it was just a typo on
Right.
my error, yeah.
Typo error.
The request is for both the alcohol, beverage sales and the amplified music to be extended until 11 PM for both of those.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution that alcohol sales would end at 10 PM. An event can go till 11. Concessions can continue to go on, but I think it's a dangerous precedent to continue to serve alcohol till the very end of an event. And I know last year we put some timelines on some of special events that had alcohol, and I think this is just another one. I think that when you start looking at other communities and other events and activities, they're all closing the sale of alcohol prior to the close of the event. And I think that we need to lead by example, and one is to discontinue alcohol serving an hour before an event. And for this one, I would like to make that recommendation that alcohol, because they do serve more than beer, alcohol sales end at 10 PM and music can continue till 11 PM.
And I'll be seconding that. I am seconding that.
Is there any discussion from anyone in the audience regarding this amendment? See anyone coming forward, bring it back to the council for any further discussion?
I guess the only thing that I would bring up to that is, if I'm not mistaken, I think for Sawdust Days, wasn't it only a half hour prior to the end of the event? So, you know, my question would be is, do we want to be consistent? Because we're then picking one
To
event.
a point, I agree. I guess we had some little discussion prior to that. We'd like to get a policy in place, and maybe that policy is 1 hour. If we want to be consistent, since we did do, I would amend my resolution for a half hour to be consistent. And then as we move forward, if council wishes to bring this item forward as a policy, we can then discuss half hour. But I guess I can agree to what you're saying, since we did do that with Sawdust Days this year. We can do that with Waterfest, then that would be 10:30.
So the gentleman would accept a friendly amendment
You
to
bet.
amend to 10:30, so I would propose a friendly amendment to admit it.
Just a second, your rules don't allow you to do friendly amendments. You
That's
can
right.
withdraw.
I'll withdraw.
With consent
I'll-
and make a new
Right.
motion, just to
I'll-
keep the minutes clean.
Correct. I will withdraw my amendment to the resolution and re-amend, I guess.
And I
Councilmember
consent
Palmer.
to withdraw.
Right.
Now, do we have to take it back to the
No, no, you just-
audience?
Well, he has to put the new amendment back up.
I'll make amendment to the original resolution 17-217 that alcohol serving, beverage serving will end at 10:30 and music may continue to 11 p.m. on those dates, June 15th through August 31st and July 12th,
Second.
2017.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the audience? Bring it back to the council for further discussion.
Mayor, can I just ask a question of Deputy Mayor Herman? Have you talked to any of the many groups in Oshkosh that use Waterfest as a fundraiser? I've been volunteering out there for years, and I can tell you that those last half hour, 1 hour alcohol sales do lead to more tips in your tip jar for whatever booster club or organization you're supporting. So I'm just wondering if we've reached out to them knowing that they're going to lose some potential income over the summer.
No, I have not talked to any of those groups, and I think it's just bad that you would want to sell alcohol right up to the event.
It's
The
a
event ends,
huge-
the park closes, and
Huge
people...
fundraiser.
I understand that. I worked many of them myself, and I just think that we need to take a look at this, and I did not talk to any of the groups to answer your question.
I just, knowing that, I have a difficult time supporting this. I would like to see us discuss this with the people who are running the organization, or running the event, and the people who are coming to raise funds for their organizations, possibly implementing some sort of ordinance before we just make a change to the event the night of it being on the agenda. I will not be supporting this.
Is there any other further council discussion or comments? Would you please take the roll?
Pansky,
No.
Krause,
Aye.
Heck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6-1.
There were no items removed from the consent
Mayor,
agenda?
Mayor,
Yeah.
we need to vote on it as amended.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do that, did we?
No.
All right, we're now voting on Resolution 17-217 as amended, which will mean alcohol sales start at 10:30, music continues to 11. Take the roll.
Pansky,
No.
Krause,
Aye.
Heck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
carried 6-1.
Again, there are no items removed from the consent agenda, so we'll go on to pending ordinances. The first is ordinance 17-222. Approve zone change 460, 474, and 482 Marion Road from UI Urban Industrial and I Institutional with a planned development overlay to UMU Urban Mixed Use with a planned development overlay, Plan Commission recommends approval. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this issue? I see no one coming forward. I'll bring it back to council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes,
Um,
Darren?
Yeah, Mr. Burridge, he's back there. Thank you. I just have one question. We're adjusting or approving the change to 460, 474, 482. Though it's just those lots, right? Or is that whole area now going to be zoned pretty much the same? Because it's pretty much becoming on both sides of Marion Road in that river area, multi-apartments and multi-use like that. So is that going to mean that all the rest of that area is part of that too, or just those specific addresses?
All those addresses are being changed to the what are we, to the urban, to the UMU Urban Mixed Use District with the planned development overlay. It's transitioning from the manufacturing that represents the old Lamico use to the new one to allow for the apartment development. At this time, we're also including in it the water tower because we're working right now. We're negotiating with that group to do a land swap to allow them to obtain a portion of that old water tower site and move that. And when we complete that transfer in the future, we'll change that back to institutional to reflect the use of that property. So we're just including it for now as a temporary holding thing, holding until we can complete the land swap with the developer.
Okay. So the rest of the land in that block or area is zoned currently under what it was?
It will be urban mixed use with the exception of the Mercury site, which will be maintained in industrial for the long term.
Good. Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilman Palmieri?
Just to follow up to that, Darren, then, so just to clarify then, the land swap that's going on and the redistribution is specifically related to where the prior water tower was?
Correct.
So the redistribution is currently they have, or Annex, I believe is the name of the company or developer.
Correct.
They would have rights to where the old one is.
Correct.
And then after the new one's constructed, that gets rezoned
After we complete the land swap.
after the swap,
Yep.
okay.
We'll do it through CSM, and then that lot, which will be for the water tower, that will be changed back to the institutional zone.
I guess my other question is with the UMU, since we do have new zoning code, not everybody's familiar, that urban mixed use with planned development allows for that higher density than what our prior codes allowed for in terms of number of residents, bedrooms, that kind of thing,
I think
in
it's
a
a
dwelling unit?
Correct. It's a little bit higher, but it depends on if it was coming in at an R5 level, then I think you'd get, which was our most intense multiple family zoning district. I think it kind of reflects that, but the benefit of this, it being an urban mixed use, that will allow it, if you wanted to have a commercial component into that building, will allow that to occur. That's probably the biggest change with all of our zoning districts from our last zoning ordinance. Everything became mixed use. So, we just don't isolate it into residential unless it's in the single family residential area or something like that. But all of most of our commercial districts, with the exception of the industrial, have become urban mixed use districts.
The only heartache I have on this is this impervious surface increasing above what we've talked about this. We have a new code that says 50%. We're doing a base standard modification of 61%. And that's what it's currently, the footprint of impervious area. What I want to know is in that stormwater plan that's forthcoming to Public Works, is that going to mitigate that increase or that differential of the 11%?
We'll add,
Will it mitigate us not reducing it as we would have with the new code. So that 61% versus 50%. Will the stormwater plan be addressing that differential?
I think it will be included in that some of the green space will be included in that ratio. So you'll have the detention basin. Then there's two detention basins proposed on the site. One over on the kind of the northwest part of the site, and one in that water tower area. I think we're proposing that. So that's included in not in the impervious, but that's included in the green space portion of the site.
So since there's not currently detention ponds, that's
Correct.
going to help mitigate, okay.
That becomes green space. And one thing I'd like to comment on that impervious ratio, that 50%, that'll be another change that we'll have to bring forward in the future, because that 50% level, if you look at the suburban mixed use district, which should be more green space, it'd be on the west side, we have that level for residential set at 70%. This is at 50% for a center city site, so we need to look at that, because when we did a count of all the impervious ratios in the surrounding area, most of them were sitting up at the upper 60s to maybe a 70%. The one that is closest to 50% is the Radford Village, which was the first one that we developed in that area, and that's at 49%, and that's the one we looked at and said, that feels too suburban over there. We want to increase the amount of increase around the building and development on that site. So that was part of the reason why we actually, with the new code, we increased the amount of impervious area allowed. We just simply missed it with this section of the code. We will come forward with the next set of code changes to up that to at least 70% to reflect the surrounding area.
But we also have in this agenda an item regarding TMDL reductions and things of that nature. So I guess that's a conversation for another time. Last thing, speaking of Radford Village, I believe it was Radford Village at the recent pub crawl that had like 300 and some people on the rooftop.
That would be, I believe that would be Morgan Crossing.
Morgan Crossing, okay, next door to there. So in this concept, they're talking about a clubhouse, and I'm curious as to whether or not there's going to be rooftop access on this development as well. Is that clubhouse going to be similarly situated where that population has access to the rooftop? They were supposed to be 20, and I think they ended up with like, the police and fire had to remove like 300 people from the rooftop.
We can talk about that with the applicant, but my understanding is the clubhouse is on the first level, I believe. Yeah, correct.
And no rooftop access to?
No roof.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Comments? Thank you. Would you please take the roll?
Piansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next, we have ordinance 17-223, readopt municipal code book. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this ordinance? See no one coming forward, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I see no one wishing to discuss this ordinance, so would you please take the roll?
Piansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
We have one new ordinance, which is ordinance 17-224, and there will be no formal action taken on this item at this meeting. The ordinance is approve amendment to municipal building code at chapter 7-3, 4 in parens, close parens, to include Department of Safety and Professional Services, chapter 366. Is there anyone from the audience that'd like to speak to this ordinance? Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
No action.
It's
I'm
first
sorry,
reading.
no action. We have a new resolution, this is resolution 17-225, approve specific implementation plan for the planned development of a multifamily development at 460 474 and 482 Marion Road, Lamico, Inc., City of Oshkosh owners, Annex 71 LLC petitioner. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this resolution? And we'll need your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Joy Skidmore. I'm with Annex Student Living, and our address is 409 Massachusetts Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana. I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Annex and kind of describe the project to you guys, the benefits of the project for the city of Oshkosh. We specialize in the development, construction, and acquisition of student housing assets. We partner with colleges and universities in secondary and tertiary markets throughout the Midwest to develop or renovate student communities, provide supplemental housing options, or assist with developing campus master plans. It's our mission to provide memorable college experiences through unique housing opportunities that serve as a catalyst for economic development and community enhancement. We were founded in 2009 and recognized as one of Indiana's fastest growing private businesses, and have a portfolio of communities in operation or development valued at more than $150 million. We take pride in creating environments that promote resident life and community belonging, as this truly impacts residents' futures and academic success. Each annex development is strategically planned and executed to ensure a finished product that is cohesive with goals and values of the schools and communities we serve. Our rapid growth has been facilitated through public-private partnerships, unique financing methods, and community redevelopment efforts. So a little bit about the project. Slideshow here. So it is 460, 474, 482 Marion Road. The current use of the property is vacant, dilapidated, uninhabitable collection of industrial buildings. They were developed in the 40s, 50s, I think one building in the 80s, and were permanently closed in 2012. We are proposing a four-story student housing development with 140 units, 310 beds, and associated parking for the development. Our building materials consist of brick, metal panel, stucco, and we have a fiber cement panel system that acts as an accent to the building. It's actually on the back side of the clubhouse area specifically, and on the courtyard side. Our overall building and our clubhouse are located along Marion Road. So we've pushed the building and the clubhouse. If you see the entry drive on the southwest corner, and there's the detention pond, then we have an outdoor clubhouse or outdoor sort of seating area that's adjacent to our clubhouse. Our clubhouse is on that end of the building down there. And we did that to basically to add to the pedestrian interaction along Marion Road, which I think is the vision for the Marion Road redevelopment area. This project is actually right in the middle of the Marion Road redevelopment area, but was actually never included in that overall redevelopment plan. We have two stormwater ponds, one at the southwest corner that I mentioned, and then another one where the existing water tower is now. And it will appropriately collect and treat the stormwater while also regulating the amount of runoff entering the city's current stormwater system. We are dedicating right-of-way. You'll see a cul-de-sac there at the north side of the site. So we're dedicating right-of-way so we can provide an area for snow push for the city, and then also for vehicle turnaround for the city vehicles and also other vehicles. And then we are also dedicating a 30-foot public sidewalk easement along the east side of the property to connect to Riverway Drive, and that will connect down to Marion Road. So it'll connect sort of the north side of the site from Pearl Street all the way down to Marion Road. And then, as Darren mentioned, we are working on the land swap as well to provide the new site for future water tower so that it's directly adjacent to the one that's being constructed now. Some of our project amenities, we partner with Landmark Property. They're our property managers, and they institute a pause program which stands for philanthropy, academics, wellness, and social. And every Landmark student housing community is expected to complete 2 programs in each of the 4 pause categories per semester. We'll have a fitness facility within our clubhouse, the outdoor courtyard that I mentioned. We include conference rooms and study areas in our clubhouse. We have a full kitchen with gathering spaces as well. Landmark does pitch-ins and things like that for the residents. And all of our apartments will be fully furnished with in-unit washers and dryers. And we rent by the bed instead of by the unit, which I think is the first sort of project in this market to do that. So every development comes with its own unique challenges. Similar to the adjoining properties, our environmental and soil testing for the project revealed that the soils contain a significant amount of organic material and are not suitable for standard foundations. There were also contaminants found in the soil and the groundwater, methane emissions from the breakdown of the organic materials in the soil, and asbestos in the building, which we will be abating. We have started the voluntary site cleanup process by notifying WDNR of the contaminants and our intent to remediate, and our consultants will be on site doing additional testing over the next several months. We're projected to begin construction this summer with a completion by fall of 2018. And then I just want to take this opportunity to thank the staff for their time and their support and attentiveness to our project, and thank you all for allowing us to present tonight. So if there's any other questions, be happy to answer them.
Go ahead.
Yes, could you just point out on that site plan where the open yard space is going to be?
I don't know. I don't have a cursor or anything.
Or if you can direct us, I'm just not seeing it.
So on the southwest corner,
Mhm.
you see the patio area that's kind of in a hatched pattern?
Yes.
That is the open space. So it'll be overlooking that pond that we're putting in.
That's a patio.
Yeah.
But where's the open yard space or green space?
The green space, there's some just outside that patio, and it's all around our parking. We have some also on the east side of the building. And then
Is there, for example, is there going to be space for any of these students to, I don't know, play Frisbee?
Not that we are dedicating on our site. And we have the open area right across from our site. It's underneath those power lines. And we don't have any specific Frisbee area or anything like that. We do have, there'll be area for cornhole that will fit right outside of that courtyard area.
I'm sorry, room for what?
For cornhole.
So that's something that's like, what, 4 feet?
No, it's
Beanbag.
Beanbag.
yeah,
It's a beanbag toss
yeah,
program.
it's yeah, it's popular with college
Yes.
students. Yeah, that's typically what we provide, an area for that.
Well, personally, I think it's an excellent reduction in the parking. But I guess I kind of hope to see at least some kind of green space where students can.
Yeah, we lost some of the ability to do the green space with the right-of-way dedication, because we could have had, and I'm not sure that cul-de-sac will be built right away. We're not building that as part of the project, so we would definitely utilize that area while we can.
Question I have, ma'am. What on-site management do you have that's there to kind of, I know you probably have someone that will be like a booking agent or something you mentioned.
Sure, we have one full-time property manager
Okay.
that we will hire that will stay at the property. Sometimes we have 2. I'm not sure that Landmark has figured out whether 1 or 2 will
Right.
be needed. And then we also hire student advocates. So those folks are there. They typically live in our buildings. They go out, they help market the property for us, and then they also help with leasing the property up and things like that. And then they're on site. So we hire students that live within the development to also work on the property.
Okay, you mentioned about taking these classes and things, and I think that's awesome. Do you have any kind of like hours of noise, almost like a dormitory? Because my little bit of a concern is it's right across the street from senior living. And that's could be, you got two different types of living, housing combinations really close together.
Sure.
Is there any kind of like lights out at 11, no loud music after certain times? Because these are almost kind of like dormitory type rooms, if I can imagine what you
Right,
have.
right, and we follow all the city ordinances as
Okay.
it relates to noise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would that echo, I'm sorry, would that noise be echoing off the water and that, because they're directly south across the street? So with that water space, would there be any kind of echo effect for the outdoor patio if it's a loud congregation?
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know whether or not it would. I mean, the building is directly across from it, so I think it kind of blocks it from the water. But it was our understanding that we wanted that there was a need to create that pedestrian interaction between the clubhouse, which is why we positioned it in that area, so that was more important, to create that pedestrian interaction with those folks on Marion Road and walking along Marion Road. So that's kind of why we located it in that area.
Mayor? Joyce, do you have any sort of idea, like your baseline rent on a bed? Or do you kind of assess what the needs are in the community and the cost of living in the community that you're building in?
We do a market study.
Do you have any,
Yeah.
have you done that yet, or?
We do, yeah, we have.
So what
we
do you
have?
Are you comfortable releasing
I
what?
don't,
a
yeah, I don't
bedroom
have,
would
I
cost
don't
at
have
your
exact
facility?
numbers with me, but we have done a market study, and so we do.
It's comparable to
Yes,
what they're.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is only out-of-pocket rent costs? You have nothing, no interaction with the university as far as like student housing, any
That's
sort of-
correct. There's
okay.
no agreement with the university.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Thank you. Would you please take the roll?
Before you do that, I just want to make a comment. I think this is a great reuse of another area of the city that has been quite an eyesore for a long time. And I think it fits well within what we want to do in that area, and the planning commission said that along with staff in their notes. I also think that it's a great opportunity for the university. It's very close walking distance, biking distance, and with our outdoor rec plan and our bicycle pedestrian plan, this is a good fit. I just hope that the students end up being good neighbors to the citizens across the street, take advantage of our river walk and other parks and things that are available in that general area, and it's a walking distance, and it kind of goes with our Central City theme, again, of bringing housing and items close to people that want to walk and bike and recreate. So I think it's a great fix for the city, and I'm excited for this project, and looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great addition.
Would you please take the roll?
Pansky.
Aye.
Crozey.
Aye.
Pat.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next on the agenda is council discussion, direction to city manager, and future agenda items. There are no future agenda items per se, but number 31 is inactive liquor license.
Mr. Mayor, there was an addition to the
Oh, okay.
agenda. When I got back from vacation, I asked about our quarterly meeting with our legislators. And as we did some quick research, we discovered that the university is having a legislative day on May 1st, which was our tentative date. So our legislators are already committed, at least 2 of the 3 are committed, and the other one's going to be out of town. So May 1st won't work. Right now, the options don't appear to be really good, but I'm going to lay them out for you so you know them. Normally, we've tried to do these in the morning, try to accommodate work schedules and whatnot. Right now, other dates in May on a Monday are May 15th and May 22nd, again, both Mondays, but they're looking at afternoon as opposed to morning dates. I'm not sure how that appeals to folks, especially folks who have a defined work schedule. If you'd like me to, I can keep working on it and look at something into June. Or if you want me to take a look at this May 15th or May 22nd date, but we're looking 1 to 4 p.m. time range, which I think can be disruptive to everybody's work schedule.
I could tell you, for me, Monday mornings are out, so.
Oh, they are, okay.
To a prior commitment,
Oh, okay, due to.
till at least September.
Okay. Any thoughts or preferences? I can throw these into the newsletter and have Diane follow through and just poll you to just see how you are on those things, because summertime's a bit different because people's work schedules, and so other schedules change. So, I just wanted to let you know 5/1, next Monday wasn't going to work. So if it's okay, I'll just have Diane start polling the council members.
I think it's critical we stick to a schedule throughout the rest of the year, meeting with the legislatures. There's so much going on that I think we want to.
With the budget live, I agree.
Budget, everything else. There's just so much going on in Madison.
Okay. I'll have Diane start polling council members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as liquor licenses, Pam, do you have something to update the council members on with that?
I put in the agenda our communication from each location as to what their status is. So we're looking for direction. I don't know if you want to go through each one. I'm more than willing to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we should go through each one.
Okay. So 31A, that's the granary located at 50 West 6th Avenue. They've indicated that they have an agreement with a tenant for that location.
Is that for the 50 West 6th Avenue?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Right there.
Moving on.
I'm sorry. I guess I was under the impression that there was another item in the newsletter that talked about this being office space. So I'm not seeing why there would
I
need to be
can-
a liquor license if there's.
It is a
office
mixed
space.
use.
It's mixed use.
Okay, okay.
The former bar part will remain the bar part, and what was a restaurant will become office space.
Yeah, that was a big facility in its day.
And, apartments was not going to work.
So that's the update on that one.
Okay. Then moving on to the Morgan property. That one is 228 West 6th Avenue. Their communication with us is that they would like an extension be to review the height of the bridge. They don't want to go into further development until they see where that is, so they would like an extension.
So the letter was more a commentary on the bridge than it was their liquor
Well, one thing in the
license.
letter that I'd like to point out is that it says, "The city of Oshkosh is considering the bridge replacement." It is the state of Wisconsin that is considering the bridge replacement. We just happen to have that bridge in the city of Oshkosh.
And what we may recommend as a city of Oshkosh, the DOT may not follow our recommendation.
And we have that item just a little bit later on.
But
the
I also
agenda.
think, though, it is important whether they're waiting to see what the bridge turns out to be or not. That's a developmental property that would be hard to develop without a liquor license, probably at this point, depending on what they want to do with the property based maybe on what happens with the bridge. But that being said, I think they've shown that they are at least moving forward. They have some tentative plans. I mean, that's the thing that we're always looking at is what is the tentative plans? What is the future? And at least, I'm comfortable with giving them one more year just because we don't know. We don't know what the bridge will look like. We don't know how that will impact their future development. But I think at this point, I think it's worth giving them one more year of hanging on to that license to develop something in that area. And if the bridge goes in there, then they might change and go to something totally different and still need a liquor license. We don't know that. But if we pull it now, I think we really inhibit them from making maybe some decisions on that property. So I think it makes sense to continue, in my opinion, at least one more year. I don't know, I'm not speaking on behalf of the council, so.
Since we're talking bridge, there's some comments I'd like to make, but should I wait until we have
Yeah.
further on? Okay.
I'd like to just say that in this letter, it says, "Our group has been diligently redeveloping this site." I don't know. I've had a couple of conversations with the developer that's provided several different reasons as to why they have delays on moving further. I don't know if I feel comfortable with giving them another year. I could see maybe 6 months. But I'm not convinced that they're diligently redeveloping at this point. I do agree with you that they might have some challenges if they don't have a liquor license, but
I'm fine with giving them a year, for what it's worth.
Perhaps I can have the city attorney just explain the logistics with liquor license. We came back to you prior to next month or early June, you're going to be doing annual renewals, so.
Correct. That's why we're having you review them now, is because we're preparing to bring those renewals to you. If you would not want to renew at this time, we would do a notice of non-renewal and ask them to come before you for non-renewal. If you don't give us that direction now, the city clerk will bring them before you for a renewal of that liquor license for the year. If at 6 months or whatever, we would have to do a revocation hearing for that license in order to revoke it. So you issue the liquor licenses for the year, for a year.
I think to Ms. Palmieri's point, I think there's multiple members on council that have heard conflicting information about what's going on in regards to that site. So that's probably my only concern, is what exactly is the plan? Because, I mean, rumors are rumors. It would be nice to hear specifically what are they going to do, assuming that whatever happens with the bridge is something that's, workable. So what I would say to staff, I guess direction to staff, would be perhaps to let the developers know, to communicate with council, what are the actual plans?
We can schedule.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. We could schedule it to be on the next council agenda and ask them to be present at that time. And then you can
Yeah, that would
ask
be
your
great.
questions of them, and we can get direction at that time. We still have time to do that.
I think that would be helpful, because I think it's really difficult to make a decision without actually hearing from them. And I think it's been quite some time since we have heard from them, so that would be great.
Well, they did come forward requesting a TIF, which council did approve for that
Right,
district.
but again,
So they have a certain timeline they have to develop in a certain timeline, right? Or the TIF comes back to council, or no?
They have to, the council approved the TIF, the council has yet to approve the
We haven't had
The agreement.
development agreement.
Right, development agreement.
But you are
But in a
correct.
certain period of time, if it's inactive and they're not going to do anything.
Well, the value of the TIF gets diminished every year they have
So
an
after a point of
activity.
time, if they're not going to move forward, whether they got a liquor license, don't have a liquor license, council can pull that TIF and
It's a
say,
Fisher cut bait moment,
yeah.
not just with the liquor license. but with-
Right.
But
with
we
the
don't
development.
actually have a time frame that we gave them to come back with a developer agreement.
Correct. There is no specific time frame for, you have to come back to us with a development agreement within 6 months or however long. You're correct.
Initially, when the TIF was approved, they'd given me some indication that it would be about now, right, literally spring, April of 17.
Right.
But as many council members have recounted varying responses to where they're going with this, I've heard multiple things myself.
Right.
The bridge is the latest concern. It probably makes sense to have them come in and just say, what are your intentions? Because now it's the bridge, but there are, what are your real intents? I had an opportunity to speak with the grocery company that they were talking to a couple months ago. They seemed to be still interested in the site, which was very encouraging to me, because I think that's one of the greatest features of the TIF itself, is to have that grocery store with to satisfy
Especially
the
the new
urban food
development
desert.
coming in.
Absolutely.
Our next meeting is May 9th, so if they would come at that meeting, that would still give us enough time to get direction from you. And, if we want to do a notice of non-renewal, we could still do that within that time frame. It would be, plenty of time to do that.
So I would support that.
Well, I think in reality, it's almost May. They're not going to start any construction. Building season is already in full swing, and there's no way they're going to get anything going. I mean, contractors are busy. Nothing's going to happen this year as far as actual construction.
Yeah, every story, every one of these has got a different story. If you've read them, there's a different account for each and every situation. But I think you're right, Mr. Mayor, that one, because that's still, dirt, there's nothing there yet. That's gonna take a longer time versus a renovation, for example, with the granary. That could happen a lot quicker. Would you
Okay.
like us to go through them?
We'll
So we'll
send, we'll send a notice to them and invite them.
Okay. So then Packers Pub, 1603 West 20th Avenue, their letter indicated that they've talked to an interested couple, March 15th. I don't see anything concrete in their letter, so your direction.
And this is multiple numbers of requests for them.
Yeah, I think I'd
This
like
is
to have
definitely
them
one I
come
would-
forward. I mean, it's been over a month since they've had contact. If these people are gonna lease the place, I would think something would be out there by now.
So have them come
Yep.
to the 9th meeting as well.
Okay. Post 1908, 129 West 17th Avenue. This is Matt Vianola. This is the location that had a fire. I communicated with him. They sent an email that they are going to surrender their license back to the city.
Okay, that being said, can we reserve that liquor license for like the Sawdust District or something like that? We used to have one, I think we had one in the Marion Road area.
We still have that one reserved.
Okay. Would it be appropriate to think about that? Because that's in that area anyways.
We're actually, as staff, meeting on the liquor licenses, and we plan to provide a report to council of what we have as open licenses and the options for that. We weren't prepared
And
to do
people-
that yet tonight,
Yeah,
but that's something probably for maybe the next meeting or the meeting
thinking
following
ahead, I
that.
guess.
I think the strategy that you're talking about makes a lot of sense. No joking, you remember after we purchased Rec Lanes?
Right.
The joke was there that we had a liquor license, what were we gonna do with it? We have another liquor license there.
That's true.
But I think strategically, we need to take a look at all these things, because if the Sawdust District is going to have an entertainment area, we need to, for lack of a better term, stockpile some liquor licenses in the event that we have opportunities there. And I'm sure every person that's interested in potentially developing there is gonna have an interest in it. So I think your thoughts, I think there's some
You're just
value in
jumping a
following
little
that
ahead of
strategy.
us.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud.
But I think we have to inventory those and take a
Yeah.
look at those things.
Well, and if there's other applicants too, I mean, and they have a valid, ready-to-go project too, is always something that, you know, we have
The
to
other
look
thing
at.
that I challenge staff on regularly, and they know this because I've been doing it since I got here, I always look for ways to, how we can use the law to our advantage to maximize the number of available liquor licenses, so we have that. Right now, there seems to be a few more out there, but you remember when we were,
Yeah.
there were 10 applicants for 3 licenses, and if we get back into that situation, it's going to be very difficult, and we are going to have to be selective in terms of meeting certain development goals. And if we're going to have mixed use with restaurants, the assumption is that these restaurants, unless they're a fast food type of place, they're going to want a liquor license to go with it. So that's Vianola.
Okay, so Robbins, 1810 Amro Road. Their letter has indicated that they are in negotiations with a group from Oak Creek, Wisconsin.
And they have also been inactive for a year, so are you saying from what you said earlier that unless we pull it for next meeting, we have to give them another year?
Yeah, technically, their year didn't start.
It said June
Was it June?
2016.
July 2016 is their 1 year.
Yeah.
But he also indicates he looks like if they can come to an agreement, they'll be ready to go by June 1st already. So, you know, I think if we pull have that review and pull the license, it could kill the deal.
This is probably along the lines of the granary
Mm-hmm.
at this point. But we have to keep an eye on this because council will recall
Oh, yeah.
several businesses, I've got a the guy from Madison.
Now, if this time frame of June 1st is not met, and we renew the license for a year,
You would be in a position where you would have to do a revocation hearing.
so we could do that at some point prior to 1-year time passage.
Correct.
That if nothing was happening, we
Right.
could say, okay, this deal didn't come through.
But we would have to
So
do
then
it
we're
as
gonna
a
do-
full revocation hearing.
All right, okay.
Now, he's mentioned in here that he's working with a Realtor. I'm going from memory, but it seems that the Realtor signs have changed. So,
He's got Rub Pfeifferly and whatever.
right.
Yeah,
Didn't he
let's
have
see.
somebody before that?
Well, what I would say is that, and it also says that that the person will be unavailable, not be available in essence, but will be able to contact him by phone between April 3rd and May 11th, so then he would not be able to be at our next meeting. But he says that he could have
Someone here.
legal counsel available to discuss, so I would ask that we reach out to this party and say, please have your legal counsel come to this next meeting and explain what's going on, to give us an update on this. Because then, there definitely would be an update by that time about this, for this tentative agreement that they are talking about.
Sound good?
Okay, the final one is Tower Associates, 2010 West 9th Avenue. This location is where Hot Rod Willie's was. We had received the communication from Attorney Chuck Hurdle that they are listing it. I didn't get a feel that there was anything concrete with this location.
It was Mr. Cinders before that, so it's gone through a couple
Yeah.
different,
First Weber did give us a letter that it was listed,
Right.
just for the record.
Yeah, and in that, it says they've had approximately 25 parties have shown an interest, but none of them have gone through.
So I guess I'd say the same thing. Bring 'em in.
And they're saying that and then again, but we're in serious negotiations with a qualified potential tenant. We believe the tenant's interest is serious. Again, this would be one that I think we should have an update, because they're saying, within 6 months of the date of this letter. Deadlines seem to have a great focusing property.
and I think over the years, we've heard a lot of, we have a qualified buyer comments from people, and nothing ever happens. There's the restaurant on the corner of Napa 9th that's been for sale for years and years. We kept hearing that, I've got a buyer, I've got a buyer.
Okay. I will contact those individuals and have them at the next council meeting.
Is it fair to get some background information, considering confidentiality, about who the potential buyers might be? A little more, something more concrete than I have a potential buyer. I mean, what can we do legally? I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
sorry, I missed the question.
We hear we've heard the comments, we're seeing him here that I have a qualified buyer, a potential buyer. Do we have any legal grounds to say, please give us more information so we have some idea of knowing?
You certainly can ask. They may or may not be willing at this point to give it, depending on the status. Some of the deals, people like to remain
I understand.
confidential.
I'd like to pose a
It's not something you're
question.
prohibited from asking.
I'd like to pose a question. I think it gives a little more concrete information on which to base a decision, rather than just, I have.
If you were to decide to issue a notice of non-renewal, it's almost similar to the revocation hearing. They'd have an opportunity to express their case. Council can make a determination.
Okay.
The city attorney would recommend that the council reach some findings before they would say you're not going to get renewed, but you'd reserve the right to do that. Getting them in here, I think, is a good way to get it started. You can see how realistic, perhaps, they are. Realistic is different than honest. There's a lot of optimism out there, especially when somebody's trying to sell real estate. Many of you know that, but giving them an opportunity to see that, and then you can make a decision. If you give the clerk direction to non-renew, there'll be licenses available, and some of these may be, if we have a pool of these available, and somebody wants to come forward and say, I do have a buyer now, and I'm willing, and I can get this going in 6 months, then the council can determine that. Typically, the council's been very reluctant, as a group, not just the 7 of you here today. Typically, councils are reluctant to do that, because you are poking at the livelihood of some folks, commission, things like that. So I know it's a very difficult thing to do. But at the same time, if we've got a pool of these things becoming available, maybe we open them up and say, when I was in Grand Chute, we had things open all the time. And it's too bad Mr. Bomir's not here anymore. He would remember, and we had a long list. And when it got to the top of the list, if we had some available, people would say, put me back at the bottom of the list, and they'd start again. And they just moved their way through the list. Within about 9 months, they cycled their way through the list. So I use the golf analogy. You just say, just play through, let the next person have an opportunity. If they have a live one, you let them take the live one. And but if they don't, then they're just saying, put me at the bottom of the list, I'll move my way up again. And literally, within 9 months, they were getting back to the top. If we can get into that mode, I think council has a lot more flexibility to issue licenses to genuine ones, rather than having these being held in limbo. You put a bunch of them in limbo, then we have nothing. So just food for thought. It sounds like you have 4 of them that you'd like to come and just kind of get a little briefing on. So we'll make sure we do that.
Next on the agenda is direction on sign-up sheet for citizen participation at council meetings. Now, city clerk provided us some examples and thoughts, so who would like to?
If I could, I wasn't here at the organizational meeting, I apologize. I have a great deal of experience. This is the only community I've worked for that has not had a sign-up sheet. So it's not something new to me. I was doing it for a long time before this. And Lynn and Pam collected some examples. They have some really good examples to show you. You need to make some assumptions, and so these are the assumptions that I'm going forward with, because I asked Pam and Lynn, and they said, we think that those are generally what was discussed, but the sign-up would be for both citizen statements and all agenda items. That's a general assumption that we made. You want the capability to sign up as an issues discussed. An example, tonight there was an amendment was withdrawn, and then a new amendment was posed. By the council rules currently, the public can come up and speak to each and every amendment. We assume that you still want to continue that practice as well. And then you want to continue statements on amendments that you want to continue making those statements on amendments. So we have that as well. We've identified forms that we can use for you to consider. There are logistical issues. If you have a form, you want the form turned in. Typically, that form is taken by the clerk, so logistically, she's probably in the most inaccessible spot in the room. So we have to look at room accommodations. Not that we're going to put her in the front row, but perhaps we shift the staff seating and things like that. So there are the logistical things. And then as we were preparing for tonight's presentation on See, Click, Fix, we dragged Mr. Newman into this conversation. And we think there's some opportunities maybe to look at some technology, because this room is pretty narrow. It doesn't lend itself to have that type of sign-in sheet. Based on my experience, it's not impossible, it's just, but are there some technology ways? And I've asked Tony to kick around some ideas that literally we could do real time, perhaps even use, people could literally sign up this way, put a tablet out in the hallway. We're looking at different options rather than just a simple pad of paper, because that creates some logistical issues that we'd have to address. So I think we need to take a look at some technology options. So I could show you a form today and you'd probably love it, but then we have to work out the logistical things.
But on that note, that might address the sign-in, but not necessarily handouts that have to physically be handed to the clerk.
You're walking right in, yeah, and those are those logistical issues that you got to work through. What we talked about a couple years ago when we were preparing some of these renovations here, we had a small council subcommittee. If perhaps maybe 2 or 3 of you could help volunteer to work with staff. And there's some other logistical issues we talked through and said, Well, what about what about handouts was one of the ones we talked about. The capability of people signing in, not even at the meeting, because we talked about if you have one tablet out there, the line for people to fumble with a tablet could be awkward. Can you have the capability of putting it on a smartphone? Could you sign up in advance? If you see the agenda on Friday, I'm going to come to the council meeting on Tuesday. Can we give them the capability, hey, I'm coming Tuesday and I'm going to talk to you? All those types of things that could really open it up.
So are you thinking maybe some kind of interactive component on the pages where we have the agendas and the minutes?
Yeah, and then we've talked about different capabilities with the TV screen, things about making the consent agenda go faster, things like that. So if there's any volunteers, and typically the mayor volunteers to be on those committees, not trying to corner you into anything, but typically the mayor does. And there have been discussions about the old queuing of council wanting to speak, that issue. I think we can go through a few things, give you some options, and then report back to the council with those things. So if you'd like.
I see I was self-appointed, so I'll volunteer.
So I saw the
I
mayor.
raised
and-
my hand after I was volunteered.
Were you voluntold?
I shook my
Was
head,
it-
yes.
But it's your meeting, and I think before we start jumping on things, and there were other little things that I've noticed more recently, even with staff, having a podium maybe for staff, so staff isn't walking up and down.
Right.
Waiting. There's a long pause when council members ask questions. Little logistical things like that I think the meeting would flow better, and then you can spend time on the meaty things and not on dead time between different things. So maybe a separate podium. There's so many different things that I think if you want to really talk about it, this may be the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, because the one thing we don't want to do is let citizens feel that they can't talk at a council
Right.
meeting. You know, we still want to, if somebody is watching on TV and all of a sudden wants to come in, and we've had that, especially in the second part of the minutes, the statements, we want that to happen. And we also want some spontaneity. I mean, we may make a comment that they want better explanation, or staff explain it better. So this is not trying to stifle any citizen from talking at a council meeting. It's just, like you said, put a little more orderly to it, put a little more, so
Better
that,
record-keeping.
it has some flow to the meeting.
As well as
glad
record
you said-
keeping and follow-up.
Yeah, the
Yes,
record
for the
keeping, I think,
minutes.
is really the
Yeah.
best.
But it's not mandatory. If somebody does not want to provide that information, they don't have to, correct?
Well, that would be something to decide, but right now, your rules say you state your name and address, so
Right.
right now, we do ask it.
Well, they could state that, but they don't have to physically write it down, or it would be.
Well,
No, we don't.
have it-
The
okay.
clerk's trying to decipher
Okay.
what
But
the
we-
person's address is.
I mean, is that like a law, or, you know what I
No,
mean?
the-
No,
Does it have to
it's-
be consistent with how?
It's
We are doing this now.
We
good
could
practice
never
for
ask.
keeping minutes, and the problem we have now is, we do the best we can, understanding when somebody states their name or guessing how some of them are
Spelling.
spelled or what the addresses are. But, we do the best we can.
I think it would fall under
We
council.
may or may not always be completely accurate.
That would probably fall under council rules. If we would
Yep.
go with this, depending on what
Correct.
you ultimately decide. They can only speak if they sign the tablet, or however we decide to go.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if we remember from 2 weeks ago, one of the main reasons, at least I supported it, was because there's been many times where somebody's come up and, they've voiced a concern or an issue, and then we've wanted to follow up, but we didn't have the correct address, the correct name, or any way to follow back up, and that's where I thought the discussion was headed 2 weeks ago.
Yep, and I think that is.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know
we
we're
could-
opening up a little can of worms here, but I think it's a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
And we're pretty generous compared to some of the other cities in terms of allowing people to speak, as you pointed out in your memo. The reason I brought that up at the organizational meeting is, there have been a number of instances where I've written down somebody's name to the best that I could think of, but I wanted to actually contact them to make sure that they were satisfied with the response they got from staff, and I didn't have a way of contacting them or the way their name was spelled, so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was last week. That wasn't 2 weeks ago. That was last week.
Yeah.
Time
Because you
flies.
look at, like Wauwatosa doesn't allow any public comments. La Crosse doesn't allow any public comments, only at subcommittee meetings.
That's not what we're about.
No, that's not what we're trying to get to either.
Yeah, I think there's some really neat options that we could kick around and,
And I think that other important thing is too, I mean, staff usually anticipates when they might be asked to come up here, but this way they can be up here. Well, it'll just keep the meeting moving a little bit faster, a little bit smoother, better record keeping.
it also sends to the public, and this just based on experience, that belongs to the public, and so they know that that's theirs. It's not anybody else's, they're not sharing it. It's those little subtle things that encourage citizen involvement, and I've seen it work very effectively.
I would just say that if we do end up with some kind of verbiage, that we add a reminder in there that you do need to have permission to approach this dais. And it looks like, you know, maybe we could, we already have the 5 minutes in there, and that's a very generous amount of time. You can state your concerns very easily in that amount of time. So,
Lincoln did Gettysburg in 2 minutes, so, yeah, I think so.
And that was far more important.
And council rules allow us, if we want to, we can extend time as well.
That's right.
all right.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for.
You have what you need.
volunteering.
And one thing I would suggest, because I have spoken at the school board meetings, that if it would make sense to kind of dovetail what they do, because citizens may speak at that meeting and then speak at this meeting, and I think it would make some sense that there's some continuity between both organizations.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking of citizen statements to council, citizens are to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes, must address items that are not listed on the council meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh, and the common council may address at a future meeting, and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address the council? I see no one coming forward. We will move to council member announcements and statements. Councilmember Pansky, you have something on the celebration of a solidarity chain on April 30.
I do, thank you. This is actually a 100 days weekend thing going on downtown Oshkosh. So Saturday and Sunday. It includes about 70 artists at Matchbook Studios on Market Street, Art Space Collective on Merritt, and Jambalaya on Main Street. 20 of those are local high school students who are exhibiting their artwork. There's also some spoken word, mediated public forum at the library. And then on Sunday at 2 in Opera House Square, we are meeting to join hands in a chain of solidarity. We're just kind of trying to all come together and let creative minds speak and be heard. So if you are available, I know the weather's supposed to be a little iffy, but please come out and join hands with us on Sunday. And hopefully some of us sitting up here can make it as well. So that is that. If you do have questions, they do have a Facebook page, or you can email christian@matchbookstudios.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Roloff, city manager announcements and statements. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 34 is really just a place marker update. There's really nothing to report on. The progress is out there. They're working on things. I haven't heard anything of any delays that we need to be concerned about at this time, so things are going well there. The commission discussions for alternatives to Jackson, Oregon. We still don't have renderings, but Mr. Robbie is optimistic.
I got an email from Mr. Bertrand at the DOT yesterday, actually. He had received the initial versions of the latest renderings over the weekend from their consultant. They were reviewing them and trying to get comments back to their consultant sometime today. They feel they should be able to get us a final version of these latest renderings sometime either this week or definitely by the end of the day on Monday next week.
Remind them that we're not seagulls. We will see this
These
from the
particular
boats.
photographs were taken by one of my staff on the ground.
Thank you.
And it's a panoramic camera shot that was taken standing on the Riverwalk near the Beckett's patio, and another one standing on the Morgan District property on the west side of Oregon Street. So these were taken by one of my staff, and like I said, it's a panoramic view that kind of shows the whole bridge, so that they had something, a little more what I felt you were asking for to work off of.
One comment I do have, I think this is a big decision for the city of Oshkosh. We're looking at rehabbing an existing bridge with a 25-year lifespan, but also, the price ranges from $11 million and change to $30-some million and change. And if we wind up owning the bridge, then we've got annual maintenance costs. I think we touched on this at the last meeting. We have to crunch some numbers going out, I'd say 50 years, saying there's a lot of issues. I mean, our owning the bridge versus not owning the bridge. There's been comments about development area that if this bridge were the high bridge, they would lose some development space, which means we lose tax dollars. So I think we have to look at all the parts and pieces to this to help us make, this is a huge financial decision. Even though the state will, in theory, pay for it, we're still taxpayers. I think we really have to do some serious number crunching on this.
But then we pick up the cost of the bridge once they throw us the keys too.
Not necessarily. That's part of the whole equation. If we fix the old one, that's sort of, we have no guarantee the state's not going to change their method of doing business in a century or 20 years. So I think whatever numbers Trina can crunch to tell us what is the most logical, long-term decision, we have to do that.
City Manager Roloff and I were actually discussing that, excuse me, earlier this week, and I will be working on some analysis based on the cost information that not only we've received from the DOT for the actual construction and estimating out over the life cycle, but we did also have some maintenance costs from them and some tender costs that we'll be adding into the equation as well. So we did start talking about that earlier this week, and between myself and staff, we'll be starting to work on that. And if I get to a point where I need some help, I'll certainly bring Trina into the mix as well.
Okay.
And I just have something to add to that, a reminder. City Manager Roloff and I had a discussion about looking at if council should go the direction of rehabilitating that bridge, because I have some concerns about the pedestrian and bicycle crossing and the Riverwalk continuance, and that if we could also look at some potential complementary crossing enhancements that, should we go that direction, might at least mitigate some of those pedestrian and bicycle issues and concerns.
I asked Mr. Robbie to include that with the rehab option.
Yes.
Because the rehab option says
Yes.
we're not gonna have the underpass, so those
Okay.
are things we're looking at. And I think we need to have that type of life cycle analysis, because that is a legitimate part of that.
I guess one of the things to add to that as well, either way, and, if we would go in the direction, of a new bridge, and then all of a sudden, that becomes, part of the expense and the ownership of the city of Oshkosh, what exactly does that mean for repairs? I mean, to my knowledge, we don't have anybody on staff that, actually repairs, addresses, owning a bridge, so, what are the costs? Do we have to add any staff to Public Works? Or, do we contract that out? And then again, even with, if we make the decision to rehab, to the mayor's point, really the state could change their mind at any point. I mean, we could inherit it, through any really decisions that they make. So in that case as well, if that becomes a factor, and then we have to cover costs for it, again, what does that mean? Does that mean we have to hire somebody, or does that mean we subcontract that work out? And then if we do, what are we looking at for additional expense and how often?
One thing I can add, at least initially, we currently contract with Winnebago County Highway Department to do inspections annually on all of our current municipally owned bridges. So there may be some opportunities to continue and expand some partnerships there. But beyond that, it would certainly take some looking into.
That's all I have on that one. And then the last item was we did some cooperative purchases for street division and water distribution division. We purchased some trucks through the state bidding process. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions, Mr. Mayor.
There are no further questions. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Favor? Aye. Adjourned.